Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, comedy on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And, you know, on this journey, it'll be 11 years in January. And along the way, I listened back to my first couple of years on the radio, and cats like Dave Brubeck and Jack DeJohnette and Richard Davis and all these guys, they kind of just put up with me and really helped me work through to help me find my own individual voice. And as my show has continued to grow and expand and disseminate, along the way, there's just been a lot of crucial people that I've had an opportunity to connect with on a personal level. And one of them is my next guest, who, you know, is really somebody who in his own life, it's been very interesting. He just was so fast-tracked right away. Not only the music was coming from his home and in the school and on the streets, and then he wound up in an iconic, internationally known band. But at the end of the day, when I look back at my broadcasting career, however long it goes on, one of the honors is to be able to have connected with my next guest and his greater family at large, because I guess it's just kind of the people that we got to keep the tribe together. And on top of that, it's the kind of people that I wish really were more in the forefront of our socioeconomic and our political and our culture today in our society. One can only hope as we enter the new year that eventually will be the case. David Margen, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake. Good to be back. Good to hear your voice again. Been a while, I think, since our last one. It's nice to be back, and I like what you just said about the world and your show and what you've been doing and bringing a lot of great musicians to the forefront and supporting music and the arts, and we're lucky to have some brothers like you around who are pinning it out there, man. So
I mean, things are going. Yeah, no, I dig. I wanted to just ask you as a musician. The other monologue that I've been doing lately is trying to encourage people to, we're obviously going to be in this pandemic, whatever variant thing for, I'd say, quite a few years. And there's been a lot of post-traumatic trauma coming out of the pandemic for a lot of people, indecision about what to do. And what I try to say is, I've been very selective about traveling, but I have gone and I have healed a lot of my dis-ease through the live music experience. It's been pretty cathartic. It's been great connecting with my peers again and seeing them on the bandstand, but really walking away feeling psychically healed. And I told people, you can't restrain yourself from what you would like to do, because if you restrict yourself too much, then that in itself will cause dis-ease. And I just wanted you to talk about how, from your point of view, I mean, how hard has it been, even though it wasn't like you weren't playing 250 gigs a year like maybe you once did, but how hard has it been? Basically, if somebody took the microphone away from me for, 2 years, I'd probably be in not great place psychically. And I just wonder how you've adapted to this new reality, because live music is essential in our society, and it's really been ripped away from so many of us, from everybody.
Yeah, it has. It's a good question. It's been hard. It's been real hard. Playing live for me is a very soul-satisfying experience, and having it completely ripped out really it was completely ripped out for a year and a half at least. So it's been yes, it's been hard. It's been hard psychically, being home so much, and I've been pretty careful throughout the pandemic as far as
Absolutely.
interacting
Yeah, totally.
and going out. So yeah, it's been tough. I've tried doing some stuff online with some other people, and I'm actually now having a studio guy sort of hook me up so that I can actually maybe do some live practicing with people in sync, because I've tried it with Zoom and other things and writing, and it hasn't really worked. But there's a couple of new technology out there that's going to make it possible, I believe. I know some people are using it, but yeah, it's been crazy, man. The last road gig I played was March 7th in 2020.
Wow.
Actually,
Wait, are you you mean road like outside of the Bay Area or in Richmond?
no, Phoenix, Arizona, and
Oh, dude, how was I not there, man? Jeez, I can't believe you played in Phoenix, man.
I guess I forgot to
You
tell you,
forgot to tell me,
but,
dude.
no, but it was crazy, man. We flew out, and like I was, it was just right before things were really getting crazy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I remember being on this flight, and somebody had a medical emergency,
Oh,
and we're all looking at each other like, "Oh my God, this is what could this really be?" Like,
dude, I remember that. That's why you didn't call me, because we were already in the thick of it at that point. It was
yeah. I
insane,
mean,
dude. Yeah.
actually, we flew out and played a date, man. It was an outdoor festival, and hardly anybody showed up because they had a bunch of tickets sold, but nobody wanted to go out. But no, that was the last road gig that I had played, and really since then I've done probably 4 or 5 outdoor shows. I'm at this point really not very comfortable playing indoors yet, and since I'm blessed that I don't really need the income in my life.
Oh, I mean, dude, I would never leave that house if I couldn't. I mean, the house you have, but no, I mean, you don't. But I mean, yeah, no, I get it, but like, I don't know, man. It's just it's just. I realized along the way that you play music. I mean, you weren't a studio shark. It wasn't like you were in L.A. Doing jingles and stuff like that. I mean, you play music to live, and I guess it's just like, how do you stay sharp? How do you, and at a certain point, I mean, in my mind, if you're boosted and you're in decent health, it's going to be okay. I kind of just want to hold people's hands and get them back out there. I really am going to lay out in 2022, and that doesn't mean being reckless. But I got to support the cats. I mean, the cats, I mean, this is just, we're not going to ever, this thing's going to be with us for a minute. It's not going to be like March 2020 when you're like, is this really, I mean, because it was apocalyptic. There's no doubt. It was crazy.
Right.
Right.
No, it was crazy. Yeah. And so, I agree with you, man, that you have to start living again. And I'm actually, to tell you the truth, I'm kind of now like going in my own mind. You know what? I'm just going to probably have to start going out and living my life. I'm boosted and everything else. And if you get COVID, you get COVID, and it's it's not. If you're boosted, it's not going to kill you.
It's not going to kill you. You might exactly. And I think we're all going to get it. Yeah.
No, we are. I mean, I think my dad was very, very well known in public health, and so. I wish he was alive to talk to him about it. But, I kind of follow his mentors who've been pretty conservative through this whole thing about not really going out, not really doing things. And but I'm kind of, I think, at the point where, you got to go out and and support live music. I mean, I almost went out last night to see Tommy Igloo, and Yoshi's was actually 85% full on that show last night, which I think is great.
And I also think it's like on like for your, with you Sunday Paper, whatever bands you're in, it's like I think some of my generation at least, they are so petrified that of the what if, what if our gig is a super spreader event or leads to some tragedy, then they're going to hold on to that guilt. And I just like, at this point, being that we're almost 3 years into it, it's like, if you're taking the precautions and not being a reckless fool as a collective unit, I mean, you're taking chances getting in a car or on a plane or whatever it is. I mean, it's just like, I want people to, I feel like it's time. And if you're feeling that way too, I think collectively, I'm curious what your dad's mentors have said about, or even what you think. You can speculate. What would your dad? Do you think your dad could have? What would he have thought about this entire insanity? I mean, do you think he would have? Would he have been at the forefront of it?
Yeah, he absolutely would have been in the forefront, and he would have been talking about it and talking about it from a geopolitical sense also, and how just the whole, the nuts right-wing anti-vax thing is. And he would have been very much talking about it, but he also, I think he would have said, caution, it's pretty serious. And with Omicron now coming, I mean, this thing is going to be, it's a pandemic that's going to turn into an endemic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so it's going to be here. And, you can't just stop. I mean, I wouldn't fly to England today. That's for sure.
Yeah. Right. No, it was already very unhealthy on a plane. There was no more place that was more unhealthy than a plane before the pandemic. But now it's like the recirculating air and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing better, but still, it's like, I wouldn't. There's certain places where you're not just out of common sense. I don't think you're gonna. I'm not gonna go. That's for sure. But I do think that we're gonna have to, at some point, just say, okay, you got to live life. You got to go out and start playing. But there's also, I know so many cats that have had their gigs canceled this week, and Absolutely. New Year's gigs canceled. And so, I mean, I think for the next month or so, I think there's going to be kind of a lot of shutdowns again. And I think I'm probably going to be a little more cautious probably for the next month or so. Probably not take anything inside. And I've already had stuff that was supposed to kind of start back up this year in February that's looking like it's all going to be canceled out. And a lot of that being some of the promoters just don't want to take a chance, which I do understand.
And I'm sorry, you're talking about the possibility of having a super spreader event that could lead to liability. Yeah. Is that kind of what you're feeling?
I don't know if it's liability necessarily. It's more just
guilt.
Guilt. Yeah, like who wants to do that?
Exactly.
And I also know that there's some of the venues. My good friend owns the UC Theater in Berkeley, which is I think a 1,500 seat venue, and I know that he's having a rough time with ticket sales. It seems like the younger shows sell much better than the acts they're going to appeal to an older crowd are probably much slower right now, and I just think that's kind of the mentality that we're into, where younger people are going to go out and take more chances. So
absolutely. I mean, I'm 43. If I was in my 60s or 70s, I'd be a little bit more hesitant. I mean, it's just the collective unconscious is what's at work here, and so you know what it is. I just don't want it to atrophy because, like you said, it's like we've already seen like so many. I mean, the economy is in a very very precarious spot. Like Phil Lesh had to close Terrapin Crossroads. It's just like, so it's like even when we come out, I mean, it's kind of like, where will there be opportunities, especially for younger cats? And then there's the whole idea of like, if you're not Tower of Power or, Steve Miller or Journey or some huge name that, chances are you're probably taking a couple of steps down from whatever circuit you were on prior to the pandemic. And you're going to have to build your way back in terms of touring. And so, there's a lot of, to me, it's like, Walmart never closed. McDonald's, all these places never closed. And
of course not, because they can weather.
But it's like why punish? Musicians already had it. It was already a tough deal. It's like why so it's
made it really difficult for people that really rely on this as their sole income. Thank God for Zoom for a lot of people to be able to at least teach classes online to their students, which has kept income rolling in. But I mean, without that, and then a lot of guys that don't have the ability to teach or do whatever else for income, it's been devastating for many players. And and again, getting back to the psychological, it's horrible because you're used to doing something that brings joy to yourself and to other people, and all of a sudden it's just been ripped out. And there's not been. I think some of the studios are kind of getting back, but I mean, I wasn't even during the height of it, man. I was like offered some sessions that I just said, well. I don't know you guys well enough, and
that's right.
I'm not sure.
No, totally.
I'm not sure your vaccination status, and unless it's a really big room where everybody can really spread out, I'm just not going to take them. And I have done, I don't know, 3 or 4 sessions in the last 3 or 4 months, I think, or something like that. But those have been more overdub or bigger studios where making sure everybody's spread out.
Well, at the end of the day, we're talking to a legendary musician and fantastic cat, and so we have a game on this program called Name That Voice. Take a listen to this, but then also pay attention to the content, and we'll come back.
Yeah, we had a little portable electric keyboard, and I loved Indugo. I mean, he's just such a great guy, and he's a dear friend to this day. And he would make me laugh, and I would make him laugh, and so there's that wonderful brotherhood and camaraderie. And so Indugo and I would say, well, let's get together on our own and see what we can come up with. So we decide on what kind of a mood being what kind of rhythm connotation, whether we wanted it to have some funk to it, whether we want it to be a Latin rhythm. So we would determine what kind of a groove we wanted, and then he would start playing it on whatever he brought into the room with him. And of course, he's such a great drummer, you couldn't help but feel the groove. And then I would start writing chords, and then we both would come up with the melody. In fact, Tell Me Are You Tired, of course, I think he wrote the lyrics to that. I'm not sure, or David Rubinson, I'm not sure. But that's basically how we did it. And, there were times when stuff didn't fit properly, and we'd say, well, let's try this, or let's try that. I mean, it wasn't something like where you could write 1 or 2 songs in a day. it took a while, and because we knew that we had to write something in a particular direction for it to even be accepted for the record.
Right. David Margen, you want to take a guess at who that is?
Well, you said in Dug, so I'm assuming it was in Dugu.
In Dugu, and this is a cat you were on the bandstand with, and he was highly complimentary.
It had to have been Tom Coster.
Nailed it, 1 for 1. You got it. Tommy, I mean, we did like a marathon 2.5 hour interview a few years ago, and the dude is so cosmic in so many ways, and he was playing with the Loading Zone with Paul Jackson and Mike Clark and Bruce Conti back in the day.
Oh yeah, that was man. That band was
my God,
ahead of its time by far. I mean, and talking about a band that produced great players, it was Linda Tillery's band.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, just yeah. I have not talked to. I guess Tom lives in Mexico now. Is what I've heard.
He Puerto Vallarta for a few months. I haven't talked. I actually just connected with his brother Al, who was like the nastiest drummer back in the early days.
Yeah.
A protege. I was a student of Jerry Grinelli, who we've lost during the pandemic. But, Margen, I wanted to, because he was talking, we were talking about it. I mean, with Carlos, in terms of song development on tour, Tommy, he didn't party a lot, and I don't think Ndugu at that point did either. And they would go in the hotel room with like a calliope or like a melodica and maybe some sticks. And they made like, "Tell Me Are You Tired?" They made up these songs. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I wanted you to talk about because basically what he was saying was, they had to make it, they were obsessed with Earth, Wind, and Fire. They were trying to get that they were sort of blown away by that whole vibe at that time, mid-'70s. And, they'd take it to Carlos, and Carlos obviously would have his flavor that he'd want to add to the tune, but they had to put it in the ballpark. And I wanted you to talk about a couple tunes that you composed, and if there was anything along those lines where it was just like, you had something in your head and, it came out and boom, next thing you know, it's a major hit. Not a major hit, just like a groove tune,
Yeah. Well, we actually did not write on the road at that point. I mean, I think that, we were playing so many dates and just, moving every day. And we were, didn't have the luxury that Carlos has now of having their own plane. I mean, we were flying commercial every day or busing or whatever we were doing.
Dude, if I saw Dave Margen on a commercial flight, I would have been freaking out.
Yeah,
but maybe you got first class, maybe, or I don't know.
No, back then it was not that glamorous. I have to tell you, it was coached domestically and business class, at least when we were flying to another continent. But but yeah, it was not. It
wasn't what it is today. That's for sure. Yeah.
No. I think their whole touring situation changed completely after Supernatural came out, and that huge influx of cash. But anyway, getting back to the songwriting. So I remember a few things, like wrote a tune called Primera Invasion, I think it was called,
wow. What do you know what album that it was on?
That was on.
I'm looking here. You're listed as a composer on Inner Secrets, Marathon.
Yeah, I think it was on. I think it might have been on Z-Bop, actually, or maybe it was on Marathon. I forgot. But I think it was. Z-Bop.
Yeah, let me look. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I can't remember, but anyway, that came out of Graham Lear and I just being in the studio, and me sitting down at the organ, and one day before a session, and just started experimenting with stuff, and I came up with the main lick of the song, and then came up with some changes, and then took it to Carlos, and he put on whatever he put on, and I'm trying to remember if Solberg might have been in on that. But like, so that's kind of how things happened. Some of the songs on Inner Secrets that I was involved in, again, those were created actually on, I think, off days when we were in LA doing that record, and went down and we were just sitting in the studio just experimenting and trying stuff, and we ended up writing together. So most of the stuff that I wrote with Santana was generally done on a collective basis. There were a couple of songs that I wrote. Actually, I wrote one with my brother.
You did?
Yeah, and we recorded it, and it came out great. And in fact, it was supposed to be this the second single off on, I think it might have been Marathon or
Dude, I cannot. All I listen to with my daughters is Marathon. That's the most danceable album ever, dude. I mean, that is like that is the most dance friendly album. Man.
No, it was a good record. But yes, I mean, so I think actually, you know what? It was supposed to be on Zebop. Now that I remember, so it was supposed to be on Zebop. We recorded it. I remember like being at our CBS and A&R guy's office or house or something, and we were listening to it with our manager and saying, "Yeah, this hit. It's gonna be a hit." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, great." You know, I think it was myself and Alex Lidgerwood and my brother Peter wrote the song, and then all of a sudden they shelved half the record that was off the record, and I went back in and recorded a whole bunch more material, which was pretty unfortunate. But you know, things like that happen all the time.
Well, no, what I wanted to get at was like, especially when you do these, like you said, I mean, you're not in the academy. You're not like, you know, a music professor at, you know, like Berkeley or something, which, you know, and more power to you in my mind, because I don't think the academy is really, but, you know, like to me, like you made up all your bass parts for those songs, didn't you? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, how can you,
pretty much. Yeah.
And my question is like how to me, like that's the magic of it all. Like you know, like going back to your teacher Mims, you know, back in the day, he told you guys how to listen as a rhythm section. Obviously, he taught you, you know, to read some charts. But you know, like I just did another interview with Chuck Rainey, and I mean every session that he was in. Now this is a studio, but he made up his own bass parts, and I just wonder how you try to get with cats when you're teaching them on Zoom or even in this time. Like, can you even touch that on a teaching level, or get them to understand, to stop necessarily reading the notes that are on the page and just sort of play by feel and come up with your own groove?
It's hard to teach. I think, you know, I mean, somebody like Chuck Rainey, man, he's hired because he's Chuck. And
that's right.
He was, by the way, he was one of my absolute idols when I was growing up and learning how to play. I mean, he was the guy that I probably listened to probably the most, and just an incredible bassist. And I met him a few times too. Really nice, humble guy.
Such a beautiful guy, man.
Yeah.
Did you know? Do you remember the records? Were they Aretha records or like just like funk random? I mean, dude, the guy was on everything, man.
He was on everything. I mean, Steely Dan. I mean, back then, I don't remember. He was on so many records.
On everything, dude.
I mean, and actually, one of my favorite records that I think I still have a copy of it, was called the Chuck Rainey Coalition.
Dude,
and it was his
I love that record, man.
It was his only solo record.
Yep.
And I was, you know, and I think I was like 14 or 15 listening to this thing, going, man, I mean, look at this guy, man. Just like,
what a badass,
dude. Yeah, he's got some pink shades on the cover. It's like, you know, just. But no, as far as creating bass lines, I think it's kind of it's a feel thing, and some people are better at it than others. You know, sometimes you have to read the paper, everything, you know, every note that's on it, because that's exactly what they want.
That's right.
I've never really I've been on some sessions like that. I'm not the greatest reader. I can get through them, but I think that pretty much all the bands that I've been in and played with, I've pretty much had the opportunity to create my own lines and come up with, playing with my style, and that's what I always talk about is style. You got to kind of get what your thing is, and you should be able to. I've always said you should be able to play any kind of music, but at the same time, I think you need to have your own style that you're going to interject into it, and that's something that just develops. It's not something that you can really teach.
Right.
You can teach the fundamentals of, what to play over a chord and what sounds good, but I mean, duration of notes and everybody's personal feel and whether you're playing ahead or behind or where you are in the groove, that's really just a certain style. And for me, it was definitely coming from the R&B place and listening to Chuck Rainey and Rocco Prestia from Tower of Power and
Jamerson.
Of course, Jamerson.
Wilton Felder was a great bass player on those records too.
Pops Popwell. I mean, all these.
Pops Popwell, man. Are you kidding me? That guy, filthy player.
Yeah, I mean, all these cats that were, Willie Weeks. I mean, all the old R&B guys that, Gerald Germont, another really sweet guy.
I love Jerry, man. Such a sweetheart, man. And the other cat, the other dude that was in there was Gordon Edwards too from Stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those guys are such characters. I mean, that's the thing. Like going back to the song that you were doing with Graham Lear. Like you said, you started on organ and he was on drums. And then when did the bass part? I mean, how did it work at that? Like, did you just take the sort of sketch to Carlos and then you added your bass part, or how did that work?
Well, I pretty much wrote the bass parts and the whole lick.
Oh wow! You were playing left-hand bass, yeah.
Yeah, I was playing left-hand bass and chords on top. So I would take, and that's how I used to write mostly, was on keyboard and on bass.
Wow.
Come up with some lines and stuff. But so yeah, I took that. Then from there, it's Santana, so it's going to have somewhat of a Latin rock or a bit of funk feel to it, and so you're going to create the lines that do that. And I think I think at different times through all my years with the band, there were times when I felt I had more freedom and times when I felt I had less freedom, and it partially depended on who's producing, honestly how Carlos was feeling at the time.
Absolutely.
Or we were getting along or whatever else. And so, yeah, there were, different times when I think my ability to insert myself felt more and sometimes felt less. So it all changes. But I mean, for me, the most fun part of playing bass is writing and creating bass lines.
I love it. Exactly.
I'm an okay soloist, and I had a big solo feature during the Santana show, and
I mean that one thing is like viral beyond belief. Running, man, it's just insane. But that's the thing. You're not a solo guy. It's not like you're going to be riffing solos every tune.
No, it's like I like to have my feature during the night, and then, but the rest of the time, I'm glad to be the bass player. I guess I've been at times known to maybe play a little too much, which I've kind of calmed down on. And, but, I also like the bass to be both the bass, but at times also be the forefront. So, and that's kind of how I play. I play with a lot of energy, fire, and keep the bottom going for sure, but also like, I like to be in there and digging in and complimenting and going from there. But yeah, I mean, songwriting and bass writing, I don't know too many guys that really write a whole song in the bass unless, you're Jimmy Haslip or you're, Patitucci doing, but I mean,
a lot of that stuff also has a tendency. Well, I mean, it's pretty notey and pretty wonky in some ways. Like it's not just like grease and groove. I mean, you come from that. Did you go to the? There was a couple places. Did you ever wind up in Don Barksdale's clubs in Oakland at all? Like seeing like the old rhythm and James Brown and the Flames.
Are you talking about like the California Ballroom?
Yeah, and the Continental Club, I think, was one of them. I don't know. Barksdale owned a couple of clubs over there.
There was the Sportsman's
That's
Lounge.
what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, Sportsman's Lounge.
And the Showcase. Yes. And they were both on Telegraph Avenue in Oakland. And yes, I did end up there, and I ended up playing there a number of times when I was, I think, 14 or 15. I think it was either 14 or 15. And in fact,
with the stuttering, with stuttering, with the drummer and those cats, or who?
No, that was after that. That was with a band called the Whispering Shadows.
Right, right.
And we backed up, Candy State, and then we backed up all these.
That's insane, dude.
Every soul act that would come through, we would back up. But so I remember this one weekend, Rudy Ray Moore.
Oh my God.
He was playing. He was doing shows at the Showcase, and we were, the band that was hired to warm up the crowd and play when he was taking his breaks, and maybe probably do a set before he came on. But I remember he got a thing. He had a thing. I don't know if for or against me, but I remember he kept saying, "Look at that white boy there on bass sitting in the corner. Look." It was just like
over and over and over again,
dogging on me all night. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Wait, just for the record, just for the audience, Rudy Ray Moore, his albums like Eat Out More Often. There's always like a lot of.
It was so nasty.
It was so porn. Did you guys? Were you guys like doing some sort of like musical stuff behind him, or you just were the opening band and he'd come out and do stand up or something?
We were like opening, and then he would take a break, and then we didn't actually play why he was
right.
Talking. But I thought he was funny as hell. So on PC.
Dude, so on PC. We need the Rudy Ray Moore. He was busting your chops. To me, it's like some of that was like testing to see like, could they get in your head or not? Or, at the end of the day, it's like, you wanted to be there, you dug the music. And, but that's the magic of it, is that there were, Champlin told me he saw James Brown and the Flames, and it was just like one of the most spacious, beautiful concerts. That Chitlin circuit and that Oakland scene were like, what a great that's like a beautiful, I don't want to say minor leagues, but what a great, sort of cutting room to be able to develop in. You must have already played hundreds of gigs before, Salsa de Berkeley even ever formed,
Yeah, no, I did. It was, that whole, Ruthie's Inn down on San Pablo. There was this whole it was the Chitlin circuit of Oakland. I don't think I never went to the Continental Club because I think it probably ended by 72 or 73. But yeah, there was this whole scene going on.
Well, what about Streets of Paris? Streets of Paris. They used to put liquor in your coffee cups. Paul Jackson was talking about that.
I don't remember that one. I do remember playing at a. Speaking of a Paul Jackson.
Yeah, please tell me about Paul. Please.
So this one. Speaking of putting liquor in the cup, I remember I was playing at Cesar's Latin Palace.
Caesar's 830, dude. Oh, Caesar Escarunas, dude. Legend.
Yeah. So I was, I got called. I played there every so often. I was mostly called to sub when he needed somebody, and because I never had the gig steadily. But so I was playing at Cesar's, and Jaco Pastorius was in town to hang out, and he was doing I think a clinic, and so he called me and said, Margen, what's going on? Come to my clinic. And I said, no, I can't, Jock. I got a gig tonight. Where are you playing? I said, Cesar's. And he goes, all right. So about midnight, the club goes till 4 a.m, and back then at 2:00, no more liquor. But your story about Paul Jackson with the coffee cup. Yeah, so I mean, the liquor was still flowing.
Of course, you just put it in a coffee cup. Yeah, you're good.
But so Jaco and Paul Jackson showed up at about 12 or 1 in the morning, 12 or 1 or 2, I forgot the other time. So I was like, oh man, the cats are here. Jaco's like, So first Paul Jackson sits in, and good Latin player.
Definitely
played in Azteca. And so, but then Jaco sat in. It was just like madness because he was like probably pretty high at that point. And I remember then, like, we went up to the dressing room, and Jaco and Paul and I sitting around probably for an hour just bullshitting, and Jock saying, "Where are the cats? Where are the cats?" And
wait a minute. So that's so cool. When did you first cross paths with Jaco, man? I wound up interviewing this sort of unsung drummer in New Orleans, Alan. I can't remember his last name now, but he was in Bill Medley's group or whatever group Jaco started in, and he was talking about him pulling the frets out of his bass in these hotel rooms when Jaco was absolutely, I mean, he was an unknown. But when did you first? Were you on tour with Weather Report at all, or how did you cross paths with him?
That was probably when Jaco was playing with what's his name, Wayne Cochran in the CC.
That's what I mean. That Wayne Cochran. Yeah. You're telling me it was the same time period, or
no? I met Jaco after. I met Jaco probably cross paths in 77 or 78, I guess. Probably about a year into when I was with Santana, we met. Probably the Weather Report show.
Absolutely. It was Wayne Cochran. That's what the band was with this drummer. I can't remember. Yeah. This was early 70s. Yeah. So that would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, they were like, like a white show band playing all black music. They had their own bus, and they were touring all over the South, playing show clubs. And but that was a great band. It was a really good band. But so that's where Jaco got kind of developed a lot of his R&B style, I think, playing in that band.
Absolutely, dude.
And, but so I forgot, and Jaco crossed, and then I remember, I think it was like 78 or 79, I think he was doing a clinic at Studio Instrument Rentals, which was the rehearsal hall where Santana and Journey, everybody rehearsed in the city south of Market.
SIR, sure.
Yeah, SIR is not there anymore. But so I think we also sort of hooked up there and then became friends. And then, we stayed friends. And then I used to see him when I was after Santana, when I would go back and do these shows at the Lone Star Cafe in New York City. He would come down a lot. And we would hang in New York a lot.
Wow.
And,
wow.
We just.
Who was he? What was he? He is he's reached like these like folkloric sort of things in our culture today. What at the core? What did you guys? I mean, I don't know. So many of the older cats, like I've interviewed. I'm working on a memoir with the drummer from the Blackbirds, Keith Kilgo, and his dad was like I mean, he was like a jack of all trades. In D.C., if Miles came in, he'd ask Kilgo's dad, like, go find, I need some chitlins. Go get me some good chitlins, get me some soul food, like, and then on top of that, he's also playing piano, and he made an album on Riverside that was sponsored by Cannonball, and Andrew White was in the band, and basically what Keith was saying was, like, as a 10-year-old, the Cats talked about everything but music. I mean, they were having conversations about mowing lawns or physics. I mean, it was just like, did you guys just hit it off on just life itself? Who was Jocko in your mind?
I mean, no, we talked about all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
man. And we talked some about music, but I mean, it was I don't know, I can't even remember exactly what we talked
just
about.
for hanging out, man. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we did all kinds of shit. I mean, I'm sure there was drug. I mean, alcohol and other things probably involved in some of the conversations, because that's back when we were all having a good time, and but I mean, yeah, I was. But then then towards the end, it got fairly tragic to where I remember another Jocko story.
Yeah.
I was playing with the Lone Star, and it was Alex Lidgerwood and I. We had 4 days. We booked 4 days in New York at the Lone Star, and there was, I think, Margen Lidgerwood band or whatever it was. And, we hired, I think Pat Thrall was playing with us, and forgot the drummer, but I think so. One night I remember, I think let's see, Narda came down, Paul Schaefer, all these cats came down, and everybody was going to sit in, and I think T.M. Stevens, bassist, was down, and Jocko showed up, and man, he was so wasted that I couldn't let him sit in, man. He was like, so
Jesus.
Alex got him to dance, playing tambourine next to him, and he was happy. He was on stage.
Man, Lidgerwood, man. Oh, God, man. Had to find a way to make him feel valuable, get him dancing around with a tambourine, dude. He was just he was too slosh to play the bass. You couldn't let him get up there.
It was like, this is not, especially, Narda was up. I mean, everybody was up there, and it was like, man, I can't, can't let him do it. Man, it's like, but yeah, that was pretty tragic. I mean, that was really tragic. I mean, I felt really, really bad afterwards for him.
Well, it leads into, I got another Name That Voice from Margen, so let's take a listen to this. It leads into what we were just talking about, and we'll come back.
Okay.
Second attempt to go to jail was the morning that that I actually went home and was losing my mind, because I almost actually got caught by the police. Driving with no driver's license, drinking. I had a fifth of vodka in the car and snorting cocaine. But the police missed me because they were looking at there was a beautiful lady in a convertible. So it was a three-lane street. It was down there it was Franklin Avenue. Is that Franklin or Frenchman? Franklin Avenue. In the upper Ninth Ward, and we were headed towards downtown New Orleans. We're heading towards the river.
Sure.
I had just come from back in the neighborhood of UNO. Get me a fresh bag of cocaine,
mm-hmm.
and I was snorting the cocaine and driving, and this lady pulled up. It wasn't no girl; she was a woman, and the police car pulled up in the middle lane next to me, between the two of us, and I saw the police car out the corner of my eye. I had the spoon of cocaine up to my nose, and the policeman was screwing around with the lady.
Oh my God!
They did not pay. If they'd have looked to the left, I would have been in Angola. I was no way that I was going to miss being in Angola.
Oh, he was referring to Angola, which is the prison in Louisiana that Gil Scott-Heron and Brian Jackson wrote about. Now, he plays the same instrument as you. He's from New Orleans, and he's definitely a guy that you got off on, I'm sure, back in the day.
Not George Porter.
2 for 2. You got it. That was my third interview with Porter, and that story is really intense. You know, and you talk about Jocko falling apart. I mean, everybody has their demons, Margen, but you know, I feel like in some way, like the way we've connected, I mean, I just know, knock on wood, that I haven't been in that exact situation before, but I've been in situations where I am being protected, where there's no reason why I shouldn't be caught doing what. In fact, I have. It has caught up with me, but you know, like you get to a point where he's there. He has no license. He's snorting coke. And the policeman, all he had to do was look over, and he's looking at the woman and playing around with her instead of him. And I, you know, like it's just like, you know, the angels are looking out for you, and I feel the same way about you. And I just wonder, like in your career, if there's some memory or some time in your career when you were not looking to get busted, but you were just playing fast and loose with the truth, and somehow the angels protected you.
No, I think I've been fairly lucky on that. I mean, I remember one time I think Dallas Airport, and I went outside with some of the guys in Santana, Eddie Money's band. I remember they were smoking. They went out to smoke some pot. And I went out just to go out. I wasn't even really smoking pot at that point. And but I remember cops came up and they actually let everybody go. But I remember, like, I had I think a gram of coke in my suitcase that had checked through. And so, like, I remember every bag came out except for mine.
Oh, dude, dude, that's the worst feeling, man.
And man, I remember, and we kept waiting and waiting. I'm thinking, oh shit, and because they've written down all our names and everything, and and so, but it finally came out. And I remember, like, I didn't even wait for the bellhop to bring it up. And I just grabbed it, ran to my room, pulled it out, and buried it in a planter in the hallway or something of the hotel.
Dude, it's a powerless feeling when that bag is not coming out of the conveyor. It's really painful. I mean, have you seen? I don't know, man. Like, do you feel like? I mean, like everybody would say in that. Like you said, it was the the 70s was a very big party time, obviously into the 80s, and and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you say that because of? I mean, you've been very precautious during the pandemic, just on a health level. But like, I'm so happy you're still here. But can you definitively say, like, you really cleaned basically got yourself together health wise? Is that why you're still here? Thank God, and still healthy. I mean, did you reach a point? I mean, Porter's been sober for a long time now, but man, he was really burning both ends, really pushing the envelope. And I wanted to know why you believe you're still not just functioning and thriving. I mean, why you're still here.
I think that I look out for myself. I'll still drink some, but I haven't done drugs for, I think it's been 25 years, I think, was the last time I did any drugs. But I think that, spiritually, I think there's still probably a reason I'm here. I do take care of my health. I eat well. Luckily, during the pandemic, I have been taking Zoom exercise classes online and strength training, and taking care of myself to, going out and hiking with my dog a lot. And,
That's what I'm saying. Like that, there are still more chapters for you to write in your life, and whether it's music or art or relationships or whatever it is, man. I mean, I'm just so grateful to, to be connected to your family, and I really hope that this year. Well, I just before we wrap, because it's almost time, but I wanted you to talk about. Just give me an update on. I don't want to get my blood boiling here, but just give me an update on your father's legacy at Berkeley and how it will. What is the status? I mean, how it will continue to thrive? His name and his legacy will continue to thrive in Berkeley. I know they were going to take his, or maybe they did take his name off the bill.
They stripped the public health library of his name because they merged the library with another library. We tried to get them to rename it with the other person's name and my father's name, and because they were huge donors to UC, they said no. And my father's name was there not because he was a huge donor, but because he was.
He had a huge impact as a teacher.
Yeah, as a teacher and to the world as far as public health with the Wellness Newsletter and everything else they did. So, my brother Peter and I tried to fight Cal on this for 3 or 4 years, and they finally, I guess, put a plaque in the library, and I haven't even gone to see if it's there. I mean, I was so distraught and pissed off over the whole thing that, but you can't. Two people can't fight the UC system. I mean, I could have tried to litigate, and God knows what it would have cost.
And that would have just eaten up a lot of spirit. Yeah, I mean, it's pointless.
And spirit too. Yeah. So I hope that the younger people that are around still will read his teachings and know about him, and that's all I can do to protect his legacy at this point. Have
you thought about maybe you've already done this, but maybe just getting somebody with some decent chops and creating a website and being able to put some of his writings and archives into a digital format? At least people, for younger cats,
That's a good idea. I mean, if you Google them, there's still tons of stuff on them. But I mean, but still, yeah, no, you're right.
It's just what it is. Like, there's just ways to keep the fire going. I mean, you gave it your best shot. He knows that. You're not going to fight the behemoth, but clearly, well, you know what? He's looking down. I can't imagine what he's seeing right now with this pandemic, but
I know. Just crazy. Anyway, I'll put a shout out band that I'm playing with now, Mombo Tumbo.
Yes.
It's a Latin rock project.
Is Oviedo in that band?
No, Leo Rosales and Gabe Monzo. Leo started Malo, and 11-piece band, and Jorge Santana was playing with us until
rest in peace.
Unfortunately, just rest in peace. In fact, he was on that last gig I played in March. And we had lunch at the hotel that day when we got in, the two of us, and had a great conversation, and and then like 2 months later, I got a phone call. Hey, Jorge's gone.
Wow, so, I didn't realize it was actually. I thought it was before the pandemic. Wow, that's crazy.
No, it happened right.
It happened like spring of 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2 months after we played the last gig together, and like I said, had a nice steak lunch at the restaurant of the hotel before we went out to the gig, and I mean it was it was really too bad. I mean, my God. But anyway, so
how hard is it? I guess in this day and age, like in this time, like I'm all about the Latin that big band groove, but does it make it a little bit harder to book gigs with that big a band?
Yeah. It's I don't think if we were in it really to make the big bucks,
no,
it wouldn't happen.
No,
I mean, I mean it's. yeah, it has to be a bigger venue and to have the funds to hire 11 people.
You think that you think you'll be kind of maybe getting. I think most people are off the road, and I don't think there's going to be any gigs till probably April or May. Do you feel that with your band? Do you think?
That's what I'm figuring. Well, we had some stuff for February, but it canceled out. But hopefully, we'll get through Omicron here in the next month or two, and we'll start. Yeah, I'm thinking April or May is kind of what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking there's not going to be much for the next couple of months. Is my feeling. You
just let me know when and where you're gonna, where it's gonna be at, man. I'd love to. I'm laying out this year for all the cats, man. And Margen, Happy New Year. I just keep it happening. And keep feeding yourself. Keep feeding yourself spiritually, and you got a lot more to do, man. And so many blessings to you, man. It's always good to hang.
I appreciate that, man, and I'm glad to be your last show of 2021, and I wish everybody happiness, safety, health, and 2022 is going to get better, and so that's my
common sense, and please use your head. Yeah, please people need to use, please follow the facts, and please just and be cool, and let the music come back.
Cool, all of the science, and let's get back at it. So there you go.
Dig, bro. Yo, Happy New Year, man. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care, Jay.
Be cool, man.
All right. Peace,
later.
Brother.
Peace.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, he might be the final musician of 2021. David Margen, great bass player, sharing stories and knowledge. That's it for the Jake Feinberg Show. Be cool.